What if I told you that while humans run for shelter during catastrophic disasters, some animals not only survive but have actually evolved to thrive during Earth's most extreme events? Imagine a world where butterflies deliberately fly into hurricanes, sharks use underwater pressure waves to navigate through violent storms, and certain creatures can survive being buried under 30 feet of snow for days without oxygen. These aren't science fiction scenarios. They're the extraordinary reality of nature's ultimate survivors, animals with disaster survival abilities so advanced that NASA engineers and military designers study them to improve our own emergency systems. While our greatest technological achievements can be destroyed in seconds by nature's fury, these remarkable creatures have been perfecting their disaster response strategies for millions of years, developing abilities that seem to defy the very laws of biology and physics. In this video, we're exploring the astonishing world of disaster-resistant animals, creatures that have developed specialized adaptations, allowing them to survive catastrophes that would kill most other species instantly. From earthquakes and tsunamis to volcanic eruptions and Arctic freezes, we'll reveal how evolution has equipped these animals with extraordinary survival strategies. You'll discover how elephants can detect tsunamis from over 100 miles away, why alligators deliberately allow themselves to be frozen in ice, and how certain deep-sea creatures use volcanic eruptions to their advantage. These aren't just fascinating survival stories. They represent nature's most sophisticated emergency response systems, developed through millions of years of evolution. By understanding how these animals predict, endure, and even exploit natural disasters, we gain incredible insights into resilient strategies that could one day save human lives. Most people don't realize that some polar bears have begun swimming distances of over 400 miles across open ocean, roughly equivalent to swimming from London to Paris and back, as the Arctic sea ice they depend on melts at an unprecedented rate due to climate change. The rapid transformation of the Arctic environment represents one of the most dramatic examples of a slow-motion natural disaster affecting wildlife. Since the 1970s, Arctic sea ice has declined by approximately 13% per decade, fundamentally altering the hunting grounds polar bears have relied on for millennia. For a species that evolved specifically to hunt seals on sea ice platforms, this represents an existential threat. Yet some polar bears display remarkable adaptability. Researchers tracking bears in the Beaufort Sea documented one female who swam continuously for 9 days, covering 426 miles of open water before reaching ice. She lost 22% of her body weight and her yearling cub during this desperate journey. Other bears have altered their diets, with some Svalbard populations increasingly hunting seabird colonies on coastal cliffs, behavior rarely documented before ice decline. In Hudson Bay, where sea ice now forms 3 weeks later and breaks up 3 weeks earlier than in the 1980s, some bears have modified their hunting patterns to target caribou during the increasingly extended ice-free periods. Astonishingly, they've developed hunting techniques more reminiscent of wolves than traditional polar bear ambush tactics. The most unexpected adaptation appears in a small population near Greenland's southeast coast, where bears have learned to hunt from freshwater ice flowing off glaciers, exploiting glacier ice rather than sea ice. This demonstrates cognitive flexibility previously underestimated in the species. While many populations continue to struggle with reduced body condition, lower reproduction rates, and declining numbers, these adaptive individuals suggest the species possesses more behavioral plasticity than scientists previously believed. Despite these adaptations, polar bears remain highly vulnerable to continued ice loss. The survival stories of individual bears highlight both the remarkable resilience of this apex predator and the unprecedented challenges facing Arctic species as climate change accelerates. Their story is unique among natural disaster survivors. Animals adapting in real time to a disaster unfolding over decades rather than minutes or hours. Most people don't realize that elephants can detect a tsunami coming from more than 100 miles away, giving these massive animals time to lead entire herds to safety while humans remain completely unaware of the approaching danger. Elephants possess what scientists consider one of the most sophisticated natural disaster warning systems in the animal kingdom. Their tsunami detection abilities come from several remarkable physical adaptations. Perhaps most important are their feet, which contain specialized cells that can detect vibrations far too subtle for humans to notice. When tsunami waves begin moving toward shore, even when those waves are still far out at sea, they create tiny seismic vibrations that travel through the earth. An elephant's feet pick up these vibrations much like a built-in earthquake detection system. This foot-based detection system works because elephants have special fat pads in their feet that help conduct vibrations up to their nervous system. These fat pads act like natural seismographs, detecting ground movements so slight they would register as barely a blip on human seismic monitoring equipment. When an elephant feels these warning vibrations, they immediately become alert and begin moving away from the danger source. Elephants also have exceptional hearing that extends far beyond human capabilities. While humans can hear sounds up to about 20,000 hertz, cycles per second, elephants can detect sounds as low as 14 hertz, well below human hearing range. These extremely low-frequency sounds, called infrasound, can travel enormous distances through both air and ground. Approaching tsunamis create infrasound waves that elephants can detect long before the water becomes visible. When elephants sense these danger signals, they display a remarkable set of survival behaviors. First, they become noticeably agitated, flapping their ears rapidly, making unusual vocalizations, and swaying their trunks in distinctive patterns. Then, the matriarch, the oldest female leader, typically makes a specific alarm call that signals immediate evacuation. The entire herd responds with extraordinary coordination, forming protective formations around the youngest members. The most impressive aspect of elephant tsunami response is their evacuation route selection. They don't simply run in random directions. Tracking studies show they deliberately choose paths leading to higher ground, often traveling miles inland or uphill to reach safety. Even more remarkably, they often follow these routes even when they lead away from familiar food and water sources, showing they prioritize safety over comfort during disasters. Elephants also demonstrate an unusual behavior during these evacuations. They often make deep, rumbling calls that can travel for miles. Researchers believe these calls may serve as warnings to other elephant herds in the area, essentially creating an elephant-to-elephant emergency broadcast system. This communication helps multiple herds coordinate their movements away from danger, preventing path crossing and confusion during evacuation. After reaching safety, elephants display patience that further protects them. Unlike many animals that quickly return to familiar territories after danger seems to pass, elephant herds typically remain in safe areas for extended periods, sometimes days after a tsunami event. This behavior protects them from the multiple waves that often follow the initial tsunami surge, as well as from dangerous conditions created by the first wave. You couldn't possibly imagine surviving being buried under 30 feet of compacted snow and ice in sub-zero temperatures for 96 hours with no food, water, or supplemental oxygen. Yet wolverines not only survive such avalanche burials, but have been documented actively hunting within minutes of digging themselves out from catastrophic mountain slides. Winter in alpine environments presents a continuous sequence of potential disasters. Avalanches that can bury landscapes under tons of snow in seconds, ice storms that encase everything in oxygen-blocking crystal, and cold snaps where temperatures plummet to 40 degrees, cold enough to freeze exposed flesh instantly. Most large mammals migrate to lower elevations to escape these conditions, But wolverines do the opposite, actively seeking out the harshest winter environments. Their avalanche survival capabilities have astonished researchers conducting tracking studies in the Rocky Mountains. Using GPS collars, scientists documented a male wolverine being swept up in a major avalanche in Glacier National Park, carried over 1,600 vertical feet, and buried under approximately 23 feet of debris. The standard survival time for humans in similar circumstances is approximately 15 minutes before suffocation occurs. The wolverine, however, remained under the snow for nearly 8 hours before methodically digging a complex tunnel system to the surface. Physiological studies reveal multiple adaptations enabling this seemingly impossible feat. Wolverines possess hemoglobin with extraordinary oxygen-binding capacity, allowing them to extract maximum oxygen from minimal air pockets within avalanche debris. Their metabolic rate can drop by up to 70% when oxygen becomes scarce. Not true hibernation, but a specialized hypometabolic state unique to the species. Perhaps most remarkably, wolverines possess specialized skin adaptations that allow limited cutaneous respiration, absorbing small amounts of oxygen directly through their skin like amphibians. This supplementary oxygen source, combined with extremely efficient lungs, extends their survival time in oxygen-restricted environments far beyond what their body size would suggest possible. Beyond avalanche survival, wolverines demonstrate extraordinary resilience to winter storm conditions that kill other apex predators. Their fur has unique properties that make it virtually immune to frost accumulation, while specialized circulation systems in their paws maintain tissue viability at temperatures that would cause frostbite in other mammals within minutes. They can travel over 30 miles in blizzard conditions where visibility drops to zero, navigating through whiteout conditions using magnetoreception similar to that found in migratory birds. Wildlife biologists studying wolverines after the catastrophic winter storms of 2008 in Yellowstone discovered that while wolf and mountain lion populations experience 30–40% mortality rates, wolverine numbers remain stable, with some individuals actually improving their body condition by scavenging animals that succumb to the extreme conditions. Most people don't realize that during their epic 3,000-mile migration, monarch butterflies routinely fly through hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards, weighing less than a paperclip, yet somehow emerging intact from weather systems that can flatten entire forests and destroy concrete structures. The monarch migration represents one of nature's most improbable journeys, a multi-generational trek from Canada to specific mountain forests in Mexico, with individual butterflies navigating with precision despite never having made the journey before. What makes this feat even more remarkable is that it occurs during peak hurricane season in the Atlantic and tornado season across the American Midwest. Scientists tracking monarchs have documented truly astonishing survival behaviors during extreme weather. When faced with approaching storms, monarchs employ a vertical escape strategy, ascending to altitudes between 1,000 and 3,000 feet, where they ride powerful tailwinds, sometimes traveling over 100 miles per day while expending minimal energy. During the 2017 hurricane season, researchers recorded monarchs using the outer bands of Hurricane Irma to accelerate their migration, essentially surfing the storm system. The butterflies possess remarkable barometric sensitivity, detecting pressure changes imperceptible to humans. This allows them to prepare for approaching weather systems up to 24 hours in advance. When escape is impossible, monarchs enter a torpor state, clinging to the underside of leaves or into dense vegetation. Their hydrophobic wing scales provide exceptional water resistance, preventing the waterlogging that dooms most insects during heavy rains. Perhaps most impressive is their collective response to catastrophic winter storms in their Mexican overwintering grounds. When rare snowstorms hit the Oyamel fir forests, where millions clustered together, the butterflies on the colony's exterior sacrifice themselves, forming an insulating layer that maintains survivable temperatures for those in the colony's core. This creates a rotation system where different individuals move between the protected interior and exposed exterior positions, maximizing overall survival rates. Their genetic adaptability appears equally remarkable. After the devastating 2002 winter storm in Mexico that killed an estimated 80% of the eastern monarch population, researchers observed accelerated selection for cold hardiness genes in surviving butterflies. Within just 3 generations, the recovering population showed measurably improved cold tolerance, demonstrating evolutionary adaptation at a pace previously thought impossible in complex organisms. Despite weighing just 0.5 grams and having a brain smaller than a pinhead, monarchs navigate through and survive weather conditions that ground commercial aircraft and force humans into emergency shelters. Their resilience offers a powerful reminder that disaster survival often depends more on specialized adaptations and behavioral flexibility than on physical strength. You couldn't possibly imagine what it's like to be a slow-moving koala when wildfire races through the eucalyptus forest at speeds faster than a human can run, with flames reaching temperatures hot enough to melt aluminum, and your only home is the very trees that burn most explosively. Koalas face extraordinary challenges during wildfires that would seem to make survival impossible. They cannot run quickly. They live in some of the most flammable trees on Earth. Eucalyptus contain highly flammable oils, and they typically avoid coming down to the ground where they could potentially escape. Despite these overwhelming disadvantages, koalas have developed several survival strategies that help some individuals make it through even catastrophic fire events. When fires become too intense for treetop survival, some koalas employ a last resort strategy, moving to the ground and seeking shelter in wombat burrows or hollow logs. While koalas avoid ground travel whenever possible, tracking studies show increased ground movement during major fire events. Underground spaces like wombat burrows provide exceptional protection during firefront passage, as the earth insulates against the extreme heat that moves quickly above ground. After fires pass, surviving koalas face new challenges in finding enough food and water in burned landscapes. They've developed behavioral adaptations for this phase too, including the ability to obtain more moisture from certain eucalyptus leaves and to identify partially burned trees that will recover quickest. They can also enter a lower energy state that allows them to survive on reduced food intake until their habitat begins to recover. When fires become too intense for treetop survival, some koalas employ a last resort strategy, moving to the ground and seeking shelter in wombat burrows or hollow logs. While koalas avoid ground travel whenever possible, tracking studies show increased ground movement during major fire events. Underground spaces like wombat burrows provide exceptional protection during firefront passage, as the earth insulates against the extreme heat that moves quickly above ground. After fires pass, surviving koalas face new challenges in finding enough food and water in burned landscapes. They've developed behavioral adaptations for this phase too, including the ability to obtain more moisture from certain eucalyptus leaves and to identify partially burned trees that will recover quickest. They can also enter a lower energy state that allows them to survive on reduced food intake until their habitat begins to recover. Did you know that dogs can sense an earthquake before it even happens, giving them precious extra minutes to escape when every second counts? This remarkable ability has saved countless canine lives during major earthquakes around the world, when buildings collapse and landscapes transform in seconds. Dogs possess several special abilities that help them survive earthquakes and other natural disasters. Their most impressive talent is their capacity to detect early warning signs that humans simply cannot notice. Dogs can hear the initial primary waves of an earthquake, known as P waves, which travel through the ground faster than the more destructive secondary waves that cause the shaking we feel. These primary waves are typically too subtle for humans to notice, but a dog's sensitive ears can pick them up easily. This early warning system gives dogs anywhere from seconds to minutes of advance notice before the major shaking begins. Many dog owners report their pets acting strangely before earthquakes, becoming agitated, barking unusually, or trying to lead their families outside. This behavior isn't random. It's their natural disaster detection system at work. Beyond their early warning abilities, dogs have physical advantages that help them survive when earthquakes strike. Their four-legged stance gives them superior balance during ground movement compared to humans who walk on two legs. This stability helps them navigate through shaking buildings and across unstable ground. Their small size compared to humans also works in their favor, as they can quickly squeeze through narrow spaces in collapsed structures that would trap larger animals. Dogs also possess incredible hearing that helps them during disaster aftermath. They can detect sounds of movement or human voices through thick layers of rubble, helping them locate safe paths or find other survivors. Their sense of smell is perhaps even more valuable. Working dogs can detect human scent through up to 30 feet of debris, allowing them to find paths to safety or even locate people who might help them. The physical design of a dog's body includes other survival advantages. Their flexible spine allows them to squeeze through tight spaces in collapsed buildings. Their padded paws provide traction on unstable surfaces and protection from sharp debris. Many dogs can go without food for up to a week during disaster situations while maintaining strength and awareness, giving them time to find new food sources when normal options disappear. Perhaps most importantly, dogs have an extraordinary ability to quickly adapt their behavior to changing circumstances. When familiar routes become blocked by earthquake damage, dogs can rapidly create mental maps of new pathways. They instinctively seek higher ground during tsunamis and flooding that often follow earthquakes. This adaptive intelligence allows them to make life-saving decisions in chaotic environments where normal rules no longer apply. You couldn't possibly imagine what it's like to be a tiny bat when a volcano erupts, transforming your cave home into an inferno of toxic gases that can reach 130 degrees, hot enough to melt aluminum. Yet researchers studying the aftermath of the 2018 Kilauea eruption in Hawaii made an astonishing discovery. Colonies of Hawaiian hoary bats not only survived but thrived in the volcanic aftermath. Volcanic eruptions represent multifaceted disasters for wildlife. Toxic gas emissions containing sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, pyroclastic flows reaching speeds of 400 mm, ash falls that can collapse structures and suffocate animals, and lava that transforms landscapes instantaneously. For cave-dwelling species like bats, these events should be particularly devastating. However, bats possess several adaptations that give them unique survival advantages. Their echolocation allows them to navigate through ash-filled air when visibility drops to zero, while their ability to detect minute temperature changes helps them avoid lethal gas pockets. Most crucially, their capacity for torpor, a hibernation-like state where metabolic rate drops by up to 99%, enables them to survive extended periods without food when insect populations are decimated by ash and gas. After Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, researchers expected local bat populations to be obliterated. Instead, acoustic monitoring revealed that some species returned to the blast zone within just 3 years. More remarkably, following the 2008 eruption of Kasatoshi volcano in Alaska, biologists documented bats roosting in newly formed lava tube caves while the ground was still warm from volcanic activity. The most extreme example comes from the Philippines, where bat colonies inside Mount Pinatubo's cave systems survived the cataclysmic 1991 eruption, the second largest volcanic event of the 20th century. These bats emerged after the eruption to become critical pioneer species, spreading seeds across the devastated landscape and accelerating forest regeneration. What makes bats particularly effective at volcanic survival is their nocturnal nature. Many eruptions occur without warning at night when bats are already active, giving them precious minutes to escape advancing lava or pyroclastic flows. Additionally, their highly efficient respiratory systems appear to offer some protection against ash particles that would quickly kill other mammals of similar size. You couldn't possibly imagine the terror of being an orangutan mother carrying a clinging infant through a burning forest canopy, making split-second decisions about which flaming tree might support your weight long enough to reach the next partially intact branch, with smoke so thick you can barely see 10 feet ahead, and temperatures approaching 1,400 degrees around you. This nightmare scenario has become increasingly common for orangutans in Borneo and Sumatra as catastrophic forest fires ravage their habitat. The Indonesian forest fires, particularly severe during El Niño years, represent some of the most devastating wildlife disasters on record. Unlike many forest fire events, these often burn in peat soil up to 15 feet deep, creating fires that can smolder for months and resist conventional firefighting efforts. For canopy-dwelling orangutans who rarely descend to the ground, these fires present a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Yet researchers documenting orangutan behavior during and after fire events have recorded remarkable survival strategies. Unlike ground-dwelling animals that can flee the fire front, orangutans must navigate through it using the remaining tree network. They demonstrate sophisticated fire awareness, including the ability to identify which trees will burn slowly versus quickly based on a sap content and moisture levels. The most extraordinary behavior involves their use of natural fire breaks. Tracking studies show orangutans intentionally moving toward streams and riverside vegetation during fires, sometimes traveling parallel to advancing fire fronts until they locate water bodies that fire cannot cross. This requires spatial memory and cognitive mapping abilities far exceeding what was previously attributed to non-human primates. When fires become too intense for escape, some orangutans have been observed creating impromptu shelters in the crowns of massive emergent trees with high moisture content, where they wait out the most intense fire activity. These trees, often exceeding 200 feet in height, can serve as temporary fire refuges due to their relative fire resistance and position above the densest smoke layers. Most poignantly, researchers have documented altruistic behavior during fires, with adult orangutans guiding unrelated juveniles to safety and sharing increasingly scarce water sources located in tree hollows. This suggests not just individual survival instinct, but a level of community response to disaster previously unrecognized in these typically solitary apes. In the fire aftermath, surviving orangutans face a landscape of ash where 90% of food sources may be destroyed. They adapt by dramatically expanding their range, consuming unusual food sources including bark and insects, and in some cases, forming temporary social groups for protection, behavior almost never seen under normal conditions. Have you ever thought about what happens to cold-blooded alligators when their swamps suddenly freeze solid during unexpected winter storms? These prehistoric-looking reptiles have mastered a survival technique so strange, it looks like something from a science fiction movie. Alligators face a life-threatening challenge when cold weather arrives suddenly. As reptiles, they cannot generate their own body heat like mammals do. When water temperatures drop below about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, about 21 degrees Celsius, they begin losing mobility. Below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, about 16 degrees Celsius, they cannot digest food. And if water actually freezes around them, it would seem certain death would follow. Yet alligators have survived in regions experiencing occasional freezing temperatures for millions of years. Their primary freezing weather survival technique has been nicknamed snorkeling by researchers, though scientists call it brumation with respiratory emergence. When water begins to freeze, alligators don't attempt to leave. Instead, they remain in the water and engage in a remarkable behavior. They deliberately position their snouts above the water's surface just before ice forms, then allow the rest of their bodies to hang down into the water below. As ice forms around them, it creates a small breathing pocket around their nostrils. The alligator then enters a state of brumation, similar to hibernation but for cold-blooded animals. Their metabolism slows dramatically, their heart rate drops to just a few beats per minute, and they cease all unnecessary movement. In this state, their oxygen requirements decrease so significantly that they can survive on just occasional breaths through their exposed nostrils. What makes this technique particularly effective is the alligator's exceptional cold tolerance. Unlike many reptiles that suffer tissue damage at near-freezing temperatures, alligators produce specialized compounds in their blood that act as natural antifreeze. These compounds prevent cell destruction even when surrounded by ice. Their vital organs also have specialized blood vessel arrangements that prioritize keeping the brain, heart, and other essential systems functioning even when extremities become dangerously cold. Alligators also possess the ability to redirect their blood flow during extreme cold, a process called shunting. They can essentially shut off blood supply to less critical body parts, concentrating warmth and oxygen in their core organs. This allows them to preserve brain function and heart activity even when parts of their bodies approach freezing temperatures. The ability to selectively provide blood to vital systems means they can endure ice encasement that would kill most other reptiles. Perhaps most remarkably, alligators can survive in this frozen alert state for extended periods. Documented cases show survival for up to 2 weeks when completely surrounded by ice except for their snouts. During this time, they remain conscious but in a highly reduced activity state. They maintain awareness of their surroundings and can respond to threats if necessary, though movement would be extremely slow. When temperatures finally rise and ice begins to melt, alligators display another survival advantage: rapid recovery. Unlike many animals that require long recovery periods after cold-induced torpor, alligators can return to normal activity levels within hours of water temperatures rising. Their specialized liver and muscle tissues quickly clear accumulated waste products that build up during their inactive period, allowing them to resume hunting with minimal recovery time. This freeze survival strategy demonstrates the remarkable adaptability of a species that has remained largely unchanged for over 150 million years. By neither fighting against freezing conditions nor completely shutting down, alligators maintain the perfect balance between energy conservation and responsive awareness that allows them to survive weather extremes that would seem impossible for a cold-blooded reptile. Have you ever thought about what happens to a camel when caught in a haboob, a desert sandstorm that can reach heights of 5,000 feet, carry more than 100 million tons of sand, and generate static electricity so intense it produces continuous lightning within the dust cloud? While such conditions would quickly kill most mammals through suffocation or dehydration, camels emerge virtually unscathed thanks to what scientists call the most comprehensive suite of disaster adaptations in any large mammal. Desert conditions represent Earth's most consistent natural disaster zone, a perpetual crisis of extreme heat, water scarcity, and violent weather that would be lethal to most vertebrates within hours. Sandstorms intensify these already harsh conditions to apocalyptic levels, with winds exceeding 60 mph hurling abrasive particles that can strip paint from vehicles and shred human skin. Camels survive these conditions through multi-layered adaptations. During sandstorms, they deploy specialized anatomical features: 3 separate eyelids, including a transparent one that allows vision while protecting the eye from sand; nostrils that close into narrow slits, filtering air through mucus-lined nasal passages; and uniquely shaped ears lined with protective hairs that trap sand particles before they reach the ear canal. Their most remarkable sandstorm adaptation appears in their respiratory system. When air quality deteriorates during storms, camels can reduce their breathing rate by over 50%, entering a semi-torpid state where oxygen demand decreases. This allows them to wait out storms that might last days without experiencing the respiratory damage that kills many desert animals during severe haboobs. Beyond sandstorms, camels display extraordinary resilience to desert disasters. During drought conditions, they can lose up to 30% of their body weight in water, a level of dehydration that would be fatal to all other mammals. Then rehydrate by drinking over 30 gallons in 10 minutes without experiencing water toxicity. When food sources vanish after prolonged drought, their humps provide not just water reserves, but concentrated energy stores that can sustain them for weeks. Perhaps most impressively, dromedary camels maintain cognitive function and physical capability in temperatures exceeding 120 degrees. Their unique thermoregulation system allows their body temperature to fluctuate from 93 degrees at night to 105 degrees during day peaks. A range that would indicate severe illness in humans, but enables camels to conserve precious water otherwise spent on cooling. What happens when you're a deep-sea predator living directly above an undersea volcanic eruption that instantly raises water temperature by 50 degrees, releases toxic gases, and creates shock waves powerful enough to register on seismographs 2,000 miles away? For the Humboldt squid, it becomes an opportunity to showcase disaster adaptations so advanced that NASA engineers are studying them for potential application in spacecraft systems. Undersea volcanic eruptions represent some of Earth's most violent natural disasters, yet they remain largely invisible to surface observation. These events create multiple lethal conditions simultaneously. Thermal vents that can raise localized water temperature from 39 degrees to over 750 degrees in seconds, acidification zones where pH drops below levels that dissolve calcium-based structures, and toxic gas emissions including hydrogen sulfide concentrations that can kill marine organisms upon contact. The Humboldt squid, Dosidicus gigas, inhabits regions along the Pacific Ring of Fire characterized by frequent undersea volcanic activity. Rather than avoiding these volatile zones, tracking studies reveal these squid actively patrol the periphery of volcanic features and display remarkable resilience when eruptions occur. The most visible adaptation is their chromatophore response. When volcanic discharge alters water chemistry, these squid produce distinct skin pattern sequences that researchers have identified as warning communications to other squid. High-speed camera recordings show these signals propagating through squid populations at speeds exceeding 260 feet per second, allowing coordinated group responses to eruption events. Physiologically, Humboldt squid possess hemocyanin variants with unique properties that maintain oxygen binding capacity even when water suddenly acidifies during eruptions. Their gill structures feature specialized epithelial cells that can rapidly detoxify water containing volcanic sulfur compounds at concentrations that would immediately kill most fish species. Perhaps most remarkably, these squid display behavioral plasticity during eruptions that suggest cognitive mapping of escape routes. Acoustic tracking during the 2015 axial seamount eruption showed squid populations executing precise vertical and horizontal movements that navigated between thermal plumes, despite water turbidity that reduced visibility to effectively zero. This navigation occurred without surface references or landmarks, suggesting they possess internal mapping capabilities previously unknown in invertebrates. In laboratory simulations replicating volcanic conditions, researchers discovered that Humboldt squid can temporarily reverse their metabolic processes, switching from aerobic to anaerobic pathways while simultaneously shutting down non-essential neurological functions. This allows them to survive in volcanic discharge zones where oxygen levels drop below 10% of normal for periods exceeding 30 minutes, long enough to evacuate even extensive eruption areas. Marine biologists studying aftermath patterns of major undersea eruptions consistently find Humboldt squid among the first predators to recolonize affected areas, often appearing within days of an eruption's end to feed on organisms killed or disoriented by the event. This rapid return allows them to exploit resource opportunities created by disasters that eliminate competing predators, demonstrating how some species evolve not just to survive catastrophes, but to integrate them into their ecological strategies. How does a 300-pound loggerhead sea turtle, which must surface to breathe every 4 to 7 minutes, survive being caught in a hurricane with 30-foot waves that can flip naval vessels and wind speeds exceeding 150 mph? The answer, revealed through satellite tracking during Hurricane Irene, involves a diving strategy so precise it has inspired new maritime safety protocols. Sea turtles face a unique challenge during hurricanes. As air-breathing reptiles, they cannot simply dive deep like fish to escape turbulence. The violent surface conditions prevent regular breathing, while powerful currents threaten to carry them hundreds of miles off course from critical feeding or nesting grounds. For nesting females or hatchlings caught in storms, the survival odds should be minimal. Yet satellite tracking data from tagged turtles has revealed sophisticated hurricane survival behaviors. When hurricanes approach, mature turtles make a series of progressively deeper dives, eventually reaching depths between 50 to 100 meters where storm energy dissipates. Unlike their normal diving pattern of regular, shallow dives, during hurricanes they switch to fewer, deeper dives that maximize oxygen efficiency. Most remarkably, turtles position themselves in the water column at precisely calculated depths, where opposing storm currents create relatively stable null zones. Marine biologists studying loggerheads during Hurricane Florence in 2018 discovered that some turtles maintain their exact pre-storm geographic position throughout the hurricane's passage by continuously adjusting their depth to stay within these null current zones. A navigational feat requiring extraordinary sensitivity to water pressure and current direction. For nesting females caught in storms while on beaches, researchers have documented emergency nest digging behavior where turtles excavate temporary shelters in beach dunes, orienting themselves to minimize wind exposure. After particularly violent hurricanes, conservation teams often discover female turtles emerging completely unharmed from such self-created shelters. Perhaps most astonishingly, hatchling turtles, weighing less than 20 grams, display innate hurricane responses despite having no prior storm experience. When hurricane conditions coincide with hatching events, the tiny turtles delay their emergence from nests until barometric pressure indicates storm passage. Those caught at sea adopt a passive strategy, entering a semi-dormant state while floating amid storm debris that provides both camouflage and physical protection from predators. The leatherback, Earth's largest sea turtle, demonstrates the most extreme hurricane resilience, with tracked individuals diving to depths exceeding 1,000 meters during major storms, deeper than military submarines typically operate. At these depths, they experience almost no effects from even Category 5 hurricanes raging above. How does a 1,400-pound tiger shark survive being caught in the violent vortex of a Category 5 hurricane, with 175 mph winds and waves towering over 40 feet high? The answer, discovered through tracking tagged sharks during Hurricane Irma in 2017, reveals an underwater survival strategy so effective that naval submarine designers are studying it. When hurricanes approach, most marine creatures face a deadly threat. Massive storm surges, catastrophic wave action that can throw even large animals onto shore, rapidly changing water pressures that can cause physiological damage, and sudden changes in water temperature and salinity. For air-breathing marine animals like dolphins, the violently churning surface becomes impassable, preventing them from surfacing for oxygen. Sharks, however, display remarkable hurricane survival adaptations. When University of Miami researchers tracked tiger sharks equipped with satellite tags during Hurricane Irma, they discovered that while some sharks fled the storm's path entirely, swimming up to 150 miles in just 24 hours, others employed a different strategy: diving deep. These hurricane divers descended to depths between 150 and 500 feet, positioning themselves in the calm water beneath the storm's reach. At these depths, they entered a state of reduced activity, slowing their metabolic rates and remaining nearly motionless to conserve energy. Some sharks maintain these deep positions for the hurricane's entire duration, up to 48 hours without significant movement. The most remarkable finding came from a 12-foot tiger shark that appeared to use the hurricane's energy to its advantage. Tracking data showed the shark positioned itself in the hurricane's outer bands, then rode the powerful circular currents like an aquatic cyclone surfer, covering hundreds of miles while expending minimal energy. This behavior suggests sharks may have evolved to not merely survive hurricanes, but potentially exploit them for long-distance travel or feeding opportunities in the nutrient-rich upwellings hurricanes create. Great white sharks display even more extreme hurricane responses, with some documented diving to depths exceeding 3,000 feet during major storms, deeper than their normal hunting range. Biologists believe the pressure at these depths provides stability during surface turbulence, while also offering protection from the dramatic changes in barometric pressure that can cause physiological stress to many marine animals. How does a bird with a body design seemingly perfect for being blown away, long thin legs, lightweight hollow bones, and massive wing surface area, not only survive hurricanes but sometimes emerge from these massive storms completely unharmed? Flamingos possess hurricane survival abilities that have amazed researchers studying bird behavior during extreme weather events. These distinctive pink birds, despite appearing fragile, have developed strategies that make them some of the most hurricane-resistant birds in the world. Their abilities go far beyond simple luck. They represent specialized adaptations developed over thousands of years in hurricane-prone environments. When a hurricane approaches, flamingos employ a multi-stage survival strategy that begins with their remarkable ability to detect barometric pressure changes. Their specialized middle ear structure can sense drops in air pressure that signal an approaching storm system days before human weather forecasters might issue warnings. This early detection gives flamingos crucial preparation time that many other animals lack. Once they detect an approaching hurricane, flamingos face a critical decision: stay or flee. Unlike many bird species that always attempt to outfly storms, flamingos use a more sophisticated decision-making process. They assess wind speeds, storm direction, and their current physical condition. When possible, many flamingos choose to fly high above and ahead of the storm, using their exceptional high-altitude flying abilities. Flamingos can comfortably fly at heights of 10,000 to 20,000 feet, much higher than many bird species, allowing them to soar above the turbulence of most hurricane systems. What truly sets flamingos apart is their strategy when fleeing isn't possible or when a storm changes direction unexpectedly. Rather than fighting against hurricane-force winds, a battle they cannot win, flamingos do something remarkable. They fly directly toward the hurricane's eye. Tracking studies have shown flamingos navigating with astonishing precision toward the calm center of these massive storm systems. Once inside the hurricane's eye, they find themselves in surprisingly peaceful conditions, with light winds and clear skies overhead, creating a safe haven surrounded by the storm's violent eyewall. This eye-seeking behavior requires extraordinary navigation skills. Flamingos appear to use a combination of visual cues, pressure sensing, and possibly magnetic field detection to maintain their course toward the storm's center, even when visibility is nearly zero. Once inside the eye, they can either land if over suitable habitat or continue flying within this calm region as the entire storm system moves. For flamingos unable to reach the eye or when hurricanes form too quickly for escape, they employ ground-based survival tactics. They gather in tight groups in shallow water bodies, using their famous one-legged stance to minimize exposure to wind. This stance isn't just for show, it significantly reduces their wind profile while their specialized leg joints lock in place, requiring almost no energy to maintain balance even in strong winds. The flamingo's unusual neck also provides hurricane survival advantages. When resting during storms, they can tuck their long necks back against their bodies in a tight S-curve, dramatically reducing their wind profile. Their feathers contain special interlocking structures that prevent water penetration even during heavy rainfall, keeping their skin dry and maintaining critical body temperature when other birds would succumb to hypothermia. After hurricanes pass, flamingos display remarkable recovery abilities. They quickly regroup into colonies with special vocalizations that help separated individuals reunite. They can also rapidly assess which feeding grounds remain viable after storm surge disruption and adjust their feeding territories accordingly. This post-storm adaptability ensures they can maintain nutrition even when their preferred feeding areas have been dramatically altered by hurricane effects. Have you ever thought about what happens to a frog when its pond completely evaporates during a drought that turns mud to concrete-like hardness for 7 years straight? The African bullfrog doesn't just survive this seemingly unsurvivable scenario. It has evolved one of the most extraordinary biological time travel mechanisms in the animal kingdom. Drought represents a fundamental existential threat to amphibians, whose permeable skin and aquatic reproduction requirements make them exceptionally vulnerable to water scarcity. The African savannas experience cyclical mega-droughts that can persist for nearly a decade, transforming wetlands into cracked, baking earth where surface temperatures regularly exceed 140 degrees. Conditions utterly incompatible with amphibian physiology. Yet the African bullfrog, Pyxicephalus adspersus, has developed what biologists consider the most extreme drought survival strategy documented in vertebrates. When water sources begin to disappear, these massive frogs, weighing up to 4.5 pounds with jaws strong enough to break human fingers, begin an extraordinary physiological transformation. First, they excavate specialized burrows up to 3 feet below the surface, orienting them to capture even minimal moisture from rare rain events. As drought conditions intensify, they enter a state called estivation, superficially similar to hibernation, but involving dramatically different biochemical pathways. They shed up to 40% of their outer skin cells, which form a multi-layered cocoon that completely encases their body except for the nostrils. Inside this cocoon, the most remarkable transformation occurs. Their organs begin to shut down sequentially. Their heart rate drops from 30 beats per minute to less than 1 beat per 5 minutes, and they produce urea-based compounds that replace up to 50% of their body water. Most extraordinarily, they synthesize specialized carbohydrates that form a glass-like matrix around their cells and organs, physically preventing tissue damage from dehydration, a process called vitrification that scientists have only recently begun to replicate in laboratory settings. In this state, African bullfrogs can remain biologically suspended for up to 7 years, requiring zero food or water intake, with metabolic rates reduced to less than 3% of normal. When rains finally return, moisture penetrates their cocoon, triggering a cascade of revival processes. Within 24 hours of rehydration, They can be actively hunting and within 48 hours, reproductively active, capable of laying up to 4,000 eggs to quickly repopulate drought-devastated wetlands. Research following the catastrophic 2015-2016 drought in southern Africa documented bullfrog populations rebounding to pre-drought levels within a single breeding season, despite conditions that eliminated over 90% of other amphibian species from affected regions. What truly sets these disaster-surviving animals apart isn't just their ability to endure, it's the sophisticated detection systems they've developed that humans are only beginning to understand. Perhaps most remarkable is the discovery that many of these animals can predict disasters before they happen. Elephants detect tsunami vibrations through specialized fat pads in their feet that function like biological seismographs. Dogs hear primary earthquake waves inaudible to humans, giving them a crucial early warning. Monarch butterflies possess barometric sensitivity so precise they can detect pressure changes 24 hours before major storms arrive. Even more astonishing are the physiological transformations these animals undergo during disasters. Wolverines can absorb oxygen directly through their skin when buried in avalanches, a capability previously thought impossible in mammals. Humboldt squid can reverse their metabolic processes during underwater volcanic eruptions, switching energy pathways while shutting down non-essential brain functions. African bullfrogs create glass-like compounds around their cells during drought, essentially suspending biological processes for years until water returns. The most revolutionary discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about disaster response. Some animals don't just survive catastrophes, they exploit them. Sharks position themselves in hurricane bands to travel hundreds of miles while expending minimal energy. Bats colonize newly formed lava tubes while volcanic areas are still active. These aren't just survival tactics. They're sophisticated strategies that transform deadly events into ecological opportunities, revealing nature's ultimate resilience blueprint. The implications of these animal survival strategies extend far beyond fascinating science. By understanding how animals predict and survive disasters, researchers are developing revolutionary early warning systems that could save countless human lives. Engineers studying elephant seismic detection have created vibration sensing technology that can provide tsunami warnings minutes before conventional systems. Military cold weather gear now incorporates design principles from wolverine fur that prevents frost accumulation in extreme conditions. Perhaps most significant is how these discoveries are transforming our understanding of biological possibility. The African bullfrog's ability to replace cellular water with protective compounds has inspired medical breakthroughs in organ preservation for transplantation. The Humboldt squid's rapid detoxification of volcanic compounds is helping scientists develop treatments for human respiratory damage from industrial accidents. What seemed biologically impossible a decade ago is now being replicated in laboratories worldwide. These animal adaptations also reveal a profound truth about disaster response. Physical strength and size matter far less than specialized adaptations and behavioral flexibility. The monarch butterfly, weighing less than a paperclip, survives hurricanes that destroy buildings. This principle is revolutionizing disaster management approaches, shifting focus from building stronger structures to creating more adaptable systems. As climate change increases disaster frequency and intensity worldwide, these animal strategies offer a survival blueprint not just for science, but potentially for human civilization itself as we face an increasingly unpredictable planet. As we've discovered throughout this journey, the animal kingdom possesses disaster survival capabilities that seem almost supernatural to human observers. From dogs that hear earthquakes before they strike, to elephants that detect tsunamis from miles away. From koalas navigating through infernos to alligators surviving while frozen in ice. These creatures represent nature's ultimate survival specialists. What connects them all isn't just luck or physical strength, but millions of years of evolutionary adaptations, specifically designed for disaster scenarios. These remarkable animals remind us of a humbling truth. While humans have dominated the planet through technology, we remain vulnerable to nature's extremes in ways many animals are not. Their survival strategies offer not just fascinating biology, but potentially life-saving insights for our own species as we face increasing climate instability and natural disasters worldwide. Which of these animal adaptations surprised you the most? Could you imagine humans developing similar capabilities through technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found these survival stories as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible insights into the natural world. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to catch our next video, exploring more of nature's most extraordinary adaptations. What disaster-surviving animal would you like to learn more about in our next video? Let us know in the comments, and until next time, remember that sometimes the most powerful survival lessons come from the most unexpected creatures.